Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Civivi Brigand. I do apologize a little bit. I know a lot of you guys come here always looking for me to have the Civivi reviews first, because I often do. I like the brand, so I often just try and get their stuff first. You guys like watching the videos, but this one I kind of missed out on. Nothing to do with the design of it. I actually really like the design of it. They just came out with a whole bunch at once, as they are oft to do. Civivi is a very, very prolific brand. And I just chose some other ones. But I do want to thank Lavender Pants for sending this to me. He's a frequent commenter, and you'll see him in the live chats and stuff all the time. Seems like a very nice guy. I assume that is not his Christian name, but I do. It's a cool username, though. But I do very much appreciate him sending this along to me. Very, very cool knife. Let's get on to it before we get too much farther. This is kind of the Civivi's usual fare now. It's D2 blade, G10 handle, stainless steel, liner lock, kind of the stuff that you would expect from Civivi right now. They still do a bit of the 9CR18 stuff, but not a whole lot. We'll talk a lot more about that as we go on here. Now, let's just get some stats and size comparisons out of the way before we get too much farther. We have an overall length of 8 inches, a blade length of 3.5 inches, blade thickness of 0.12 inches, handle thickness of 0.52 inches, and a weight, according to my scales, of 3.46 ounces. So, yeah, it's about right in that ounce to inch ratio that, as reviewers, we're all supposed to care about. As far as the overall design goes, we'll just size comparisons in a second. Let's talk about this design a little bit more first. You have this kind of Wharncliffe-y sort of blade, very simple handle. And yeah, I think it looks pretty darn cool, honestly. It comes in either this tan, a green, or a black, all of which for $59.50. The cool newer style Civivi pivot, usual Civivi clip with recessed pocket screws. Not a recessed clip though, but at least the pocket screws are recessed. So yeah, it still slips in and out of the pocket pretty well. We'll talk more about that again, as I said, later on. Let's do some size comparisons. So first we will compare it to our usual Spyderco sandwich of the PM2 or Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. Slide these around a bit. Actually remember to look in the camera this time. Yeah, so you can see it's much closer to a PM2 than it is to a Para 3. So it's a pretty good size knife, as you'd expect with that size blade length. Let's compare it also to one that I'm going to try and remember to stick back in the regular rotation again, because I know from comments and stuff, a lot of you guys have these, and now I have a really cool one. So is this partly me bragging that I have one? A little bit. This is the Kershaw Bare Knuckle. This is the 20 CV SMKW exclusive version, but yeah, a little bit shorter than that. And I think more importantly to compare it to is the one of its brethren, the Civivi Backlash. This is an older one. This is one of the original ones, so you can see it's got the older style Civivi pivot on it. But very, very, very similar in overall size to that. Now, talk about the specifics of this knife. I really like this blade, I do have to say. Typical Civivi, very thin behind the edge, like 15 thousandths behind the edge. Full flat grind, very, very slicey. I like Warnies. This is not like a true Wharncliffe. It's not a complete straight edge. It's a modified Wharncliffe, I guess is what you call it. Kind of has almost a Bowie type tip on it. And it looks sexy as hell. And it's really, really good for just your typical kind of EDC task. Now, I will say, would I want to pry on anything with it? Absolutely not. That's a pretty thin little tip there. Pretty dainty tip, I guess is what people say is my catchphrase for that. But it is pretty dainty. It's a pretty thin little tip on there. But other than that, it came super sharp out of the box. I mean, this is a previous person, but I don't think he sharpened it. Very, very, very sharp. Works fantastically well. I have zero complaints about the blade at all. I think it's actually pretty cool. Ergonomically, also no real complaints. It's not mind-blowingly awesome, but it's a very simple handle. Simple often works well. The pocket clip definitely causes me no issues whatsoever, and can choke up on it. That's nice. When you do choke up, it's a bit thin. I had the problem with this with another Civivi. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, that forward finger choil is there, But if you're really bearing down on it, yeah, it's a thin little piece of metal that you're squeezing on. So it's not going to cut you or anything, but just keep that in mind. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. The jimping is good and in the right place. I wouldn't mind if it was a little bit further forward, but I have really long fingers, so it's skinny fingers, but they're long. And yeah, I wouldn't mind if the jimping was just a tiny bit forward. If I had to have one complaint about the ergos, but like I said, the ergos are really good. They're not amazing, but they're pretty darn good. As far as the carry goes, typical Wii fare, a nice deep carry clip, as I said, recessed screws, which are awesome. I do wish the clip was recessed, but you know, this is a $60 knife, so I do get that. As far as getting your hand past it, yeah, it's got the flipper tab sticking out, but you know, it's a pretty unobnoxious flipper tab. I have to actually say it does carry pretty good. It's a bit tall in the pocket compared to some, like, I'm just taking a guess here that we're gonna do a color change here because I have my other bare knuckle out too. Yeah, it's about the same as the bare knuckle, but you know, it's not crazy tall. It's not like a Mannix 2 or anything like that, but it is a bit tall, but not bad. I really enjoyed carrying it. They have the pocket clip angled correctly that it kind of knocks it off to the side and kind of helps eliminate a bit of that height. Yeah, I really like carrying it. It wasn't bad at all. It's not like amazingly light, like you forget it's in your pocket, but it carries pretty darn good. The action. Now, I do know for a fact that the previous owner of this, well, the current owner of this is a loaner. I know he serviced it because I could smell KPL. KPL, the knife pivot lube, makes a specific odor, and I could smell it on this, so I know that it was. But yeah, it's pretty great. It's a Civivi. They almost always nail the action. Yeah, for $60, I mean, this is like, put this up against any ZT or something like that, and it's just as good. Really snappy. D10 is perfect. Action is pretty much without argument, and especially Civivi seems to nail knives in this size range. Like, we'll bring out the backlash again. Like, and this has been serviced too. I've messed with this one, but I didn't have to do anything. But man, it's even better than the backlash, and this backlash has a lot of miles on it. Yeah, I mean, the backlash was just cold. It's getting cold up here. My office gets cold, but yeah, great action. Love it. There is nothing at all to complain about as far as that goes. And quality-wise, let's just do a little comparison to an older Civivi. They've really been stepping it up, and this is something I haven't really talked about when I've been doing Civivi reviews. So this is the older backlash. The newer ones are probably updated, but I don't know, just there's little tiny things that just kind of add up. Like the screws seem the same at first glance, but then you look closer and then they're really not. Again, the recessed pocket screws. Now, this is a cheaper Civivi. This is one of the 4250 ones, but you know, and they're getting rid of all the colored liners. I think that's a thing of the past. I don't think you're going to see those very much anymore. Pocket clip looks a little nicer. I much prefer this kind of bead blast finish to the shiny one. The pivot, as I said, looks a little nicer. The G10 feels a little nicer. Just tiny little things that overall, you know, just kind of add up. But the one thing I don't understand is Civivi seems pretty married to the D2 thing now. Like, almost all their new knives were... I know they just came out with... I think they're coming out with some limited colors in the backlash, and I believe those are still 9CR. Someone correct me down below, but their first few knives were this 9CR 18 MOV steel, which I really like. It's kind of, you know, China's sort of kind of equivalent to VG10. Maybe not quite that high, but it's kind of close to that. I don't know what the chemical makeup is. I'm just talking about an edge retention and how it works and stuff. I've really liked it. I love it in the backlash. I've had this knife for a very long time. It gets a lot of use. I really do like the 9CR. But now they're kind of going over to the D2, which everybody does that. So I always thought the 9CR was kind of a way for them to stick out a little bit. And I would love the Brigand even more if it was just 9CR 18 MOV. I think because people think of 8CR 13 MOV, which is not good, that maybe that's why they moved away from it. I don't know. Maybe it's a supply issue, but I wish they would stick at the lower price point and use the 9CR 18. And the last couple Civivis I got were a bit fancier, so I didn't really complain about it as much because I didn't mind the price. But on this particular one, this is a really good knife. I'm not gonna knock it. It's a really good knife, but if it was 9CR 18 and $42 instead of $60, I'd be raving about it because the blade shape is phenomenal and the ergos are pretty good. The action's great. And it's still like I said, a really good knife at $60, but it would be even better down in that 40 something price bracket with 9CR. I just happen to really like the 9CR. Maybe other people don't, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.